Hey, good morning. Pastor Dallas here with today's Real Talk from the Heart. Today's Real Talk comes from the book of Acts, chapter 10, mainly two verses, verses 2 and verse 4. And this chapter is about the man Cornelius, whom the Lord sends an angel in a vision to speak to Cornelius. And I want to get into this Real Talk this morning. Verse 2 says, "A devout man and one who feared God with all his household, who gave alms generously to the people and prayed to God always." And in verse 3, of course, is where Cornelius has that vision and an angel from God appears to him and gets his attention. And verse 4 says, "And when he observed him," so when Cornelius observes this angel, he was afraid and said, "What is it, Lord?" So he said to him, so this is what the angel of God says to this man Cornelius. He says, "Your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God." And so I was meditating on that this morning. I was thinking about, man, what is it? What is it that God remembers most about us? What was it that God remembered most about Cornelius? Well, it's really twofold. It was Cornelius's love for God and Cornelius's love for others. You see, it says here that he feared God and that he prayed always. Just those two things right there. Just those two things right there point to a heart that desires God, that loves God. God, I fear you. I respect you. I have reverence for you. I live in awe of you, God. But then secondly, is that he prayed always, right? That's that communication thing. It's in contact with God. It's that closeness with the Lord, that close communication. And so that's what God remembers first and foremost about us, is our love for him. Now remember, the Bible's very clear in 1 John 4:19. We love him because he first loved us. We wouldn't even love him unless he first loved us. God is always the initiator, right? For God so loved the world, right? God demonstrated his love toward us, and while we were yet sinners, right? John 3:16, Romans 5:8. God is the initiator. And as God has initiated his love for us, our heart response, Cornelius' heart response, was, God, I'm going to love you in return. And of course, he's going to come into a full knowledge of the love of God through Christ, because Peter's going to come and share the gospel. Now, what I want to say, the second half of this, you guys, is a love for others. So the two things that God remembers most about us is our love for God and our love for others. It says here that he gave alms generously. Right? He was a generous man. He was loving on others. The word alms is really a part of that word love. He was giving love. Love gifts is the word. And so what are the two things that God remembers about us most? Is our love for him and our love for others. Now, why is that important? Because Jesus said that is the greatest commandment. When they came and asked him, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. And then he said, and the second like it is this, that you love your neighbor and yourself. He says, on these two hang all the law and the prophets. And so this is what God remembers about us, that we love him and that we love others. Now I want to ask you, what do you want to be remembered for? What is it that you want to be remembered most for? Well, in this life, people are going to be remembered for a lot of things. Some are going to be remembered for their, sports accomplishments. Some are going to be remembered for maybe their, achievements in life as far as intellect or academics or inventions or whatever. And, those things have their place in life. But when I sit here and I think about this, Lord, what is it that I want to be remembered most for? The reality of it is that is the life I'm living right now. Man, the life that you are living right now, the life that I'm living right now, is what people are going to remember most about us. The life that you and I are living right now, listen, is the impact that we're having right now. What we're going to be remembered for most is the impact that we're having on others, the influence that we're having on others. Are we leaving people better off when they come into contact with us, as they have a relationship with us, as they deal with us on a day-to-day basis? Are we leaving them better off? Are they better off for being around us? Or are they just unchanged from being around us? Or God forbid that they are worse off in having been around us. What do you want to be remembered for most? That is the life you're living right now. That is the impact that your life is having right now. Now, for me personally, I look at verse 2 and I see four things in Cornelius' life that, man, I want to be remembered for. Number one, it says that he was a devout man. He was a devout man. What does that word devout mean? It means devoted. It means intensely devoted. It means committed to or dedicated to. I want to be remembered as a man who is committed to his God, devoted to his God, devoted to his wife, devoted to his children, devoted to the people of God, devoted to the cause of God. That's how I want to be remembered, as a devout man. But second of all, I want to be remembered as a man who feared God. Someone who had a deep, profound respect and reverence for God. Someone who lived in awe of God. I want to be remembered for that. Third of all, I want to be remembered as someone who lived generously. Someone who wasn't in this world to get from people, but to give. Not a taker, but a giver, man. I want to be remembered as that as well. But then that third thing, man, I want to be remembered as a man who prayed always, which again means what? Had that close communication with the Lord. Intimacy is the word that comes to mind. Four things that I personally want to be remembered for. Number one, by God. What does God remember most about Dallas Sandoval? What does God remember most about you? Think about it. How are people going to remember you and me when we're gone? I love reading obituaries, man. And sometimes you come across these gems of obituaries where people, man, lived these awesome lives of just being sold out to their families and sold out to God and sold out to his church. And I just rejoice when I read those obituaries. But, man, I'll be honest with you, man. My heart is broken when I read those obituaries. And there is not one single mention of God in their life. There's not one single mention of how they made this world a better place. They lived a selfish life. Brought God no glory. Man, I don't want that. I want to be remembered as someone who lived to bring God glory. And I hope you do too, man. Hey, listen, the Lord loves you. The Lord loves you, man. We were made to worship. We were made to worship him, man. So let's live that way. Cornelius, man, he became a worshiper. And he was remembered for that. And that worship was not just song. Man, it was a lifestyle. And so let's live that, man. Praying for you today. Asking that you please be praying for me as well. And again, I want to thank you for tapping in to Real Talk from the Heart today. Man, salute. God bless y'all.